LuoFeng's heart skipped a beat. In the database of the Home of Limits Warrior Forum, there were many posts about the grudges between warriors. For example, in China, fighters are under the control of the government in the 6 headquarter cities and are bound by the law. However, once you leave the headquarter cities and enter the monster's territory, you won't be bound by the law. That's a place where fighters and monsters kill each other, a place where there are no laws. Fighters walk on the edge of life and death, so it's not rare for them to have conflicts and kill each other. And the dojos and governments don't want to see this. Fighters are humanity's wealth. They are humanity's greatest weapon against the monsters. They don't want fighters to lose too much in internal conflicts. So there's the saying of internal negotiations and private negotiations. If everyone has grudges, then we can sit at the negotiating table and settle our grudges. If we can't negotiate, then that's another story. Luo Feng, you're just a newbie who just entered the circle of fighters. It's better to have fewer enemies, Chief Instructor Wu Tong laughed. You just started, so you need money? Okay. Luo Feng nodded. Private negotiations are the best, Uncle Wu, but we can't let Zhang Haobai go so easily. If I was weak, then I would have had my arms and legs broken. Of course, Wu Tong nodded. If we don't make them bleed once, they'll think that the Dojo of Limits is afraid of them. Uncle Wu, how much should I ask for? Luo Feng asked. He doesn't really understand the rules, so it's better to ask first. Wu Tong sighed and said, if the person who messed with you is a normal person, then don't ask for more than 50 million Chinese dollars. And Luo Feng, you're an elite of our dojo, so you can't ask for less. At least 10 million Chinese dollars. Between 10 million and 50 million, you can just name a number. Okay, Luo Feng thought and nodded. If you agree, then I'll tell them to meet tonight, laughed Wu Tong. Okay, thanks Uncle Wu, smiled Luo Feng as he nodded. Luo Feng went back and put away the 9-stage Thunderblade instruction manual. He entered the Home of Limits intranet and carefully searched for private negotiations between fighters. Oh. So that's how it is. This compensation even has to do with face. Luo Feng read through many posts and finally had a plan for tonight's negotiation. Little Feng, it's time to eat. Mother Gong Xan Lan's voice came from downstairs. Coming, Mom. Luo Feng turned off the power and immediately went downstairs. In the living room downstairs, father and mother were holding their bowls of rice, and one of the nannies was cooking. Where's Luo Hua? Asked Luo Feng in confusion. Still not back. As of now, the family hired 2 nannies, both middle-aged women around 40 years old. One was to take care of his younger brother, Luo Hua. After all, Luo Hua had many things that were inconvenient for him. With someone taking care of him, he could go out more often. Your brother is at the Lotus Lake Park. I just called him and he will be here soon. Luo Hongwa smiled. Why has brother been going to the park a lot these days? Asked Luo Feng curiously. Beside him, his mother, Gong Xen Lan, laughed softly. Little Feng, your brother has a girlfriend. Dating? Luo Feng was shocked. Even though there are quite a few handicapped people in society nowadays, such as the soldiers who join the army, many of them are handicapped when fighting against monsters. Handicapped people can still date, get married and have children. However, her brother had only moved in for a month. In such a short amount of time he's already dating? Feng, don't listen to your mother. Your brother has a girl right now, but he hasn't reached that stage yet. Laughed Luo Hongwa. Who cares? My brother dating is a good thing for him. Luo Hongwa was still happy. No matter if this relationship succeeds or fails, it's still an experience in life. This is good for her brother. Yangzhou City's Xi'an region, Sky Capital Garden Sector. Uncle. Zhang Haobai looked at his uncle Zhang Ze Hu. These past few days, Zhang Haobai has been living in fear. Even when he sleeps at night, he's afraid that people from the security bureau will come and take him away. Tiger, as long as we can protect Haobai, it's okay for us to suffer a bit, Zhang Zelong couldn't help but to say. Big brother, don't worry. Zhang Ze Hu was very tall and muscular. He gave off the feeling that he was a ferocious beast. Zhang Ze Hu grinned, revealing his snow-white teeth. That little bastard Luo Feng, a newbie fighter. He's only fought against the weakest monsters in the military. After becoming a fighter, he knows the rules. He won't mess around. If he really does mess around. Humph, messing around with me, the mountain tiger is just looking for death. Seeing how confident their uncle was, Zhang Zelong and Zhang Haobai let out a sigh of relief. Alright, leave it to me, I'm going. Zhang Ze Hu waved his hand and headed outside. There was a 6-wheeled heavy modified Hummer parked outside. There was even a person in the car looking out and laughing. Brother, who done? Yeah, let's go and pick up Old Lee. After that, we'll go to the limit hall, said Zhang Ze Hu as he got in the car. Alright. Rumble. The 6-wheeled Hummer let out a low and powerful sound as it quickly left the Sky Capital Garden sector. Evening, Yangzhou City's Mingyue sector, in a guest room on the 2nd floor of the limit hall. Luo Feng and a group of people were here. Feng, what a coincidence today. Your Uncle Kong and Big Brother Chen are both here today, laughed Wu Tong. Wu Tong laughed loudly. Luo Feng also greeted the 2 people beside him. Of the 2 people beside Wu Tong, one of them was extremely skinny. His face had a scar that almost split his entire face into 2. Just being stared at by him would cause people to feel fear. And the other person had a sturdy body, thick eyebrows and fierce eyes. One look and you can tell that he's a very passionate person. Big Brother Chen, Uncle Kong, yelled Luo Feng. These 2 weren't ordinary people. Currently, there were a total of 3 warlord-level fighters living in the Extreme Hall in Yangzhou City. They were Chief Instructor Wu Tong, Cannon, Chingu, and Eagle Blade Kong Quan. Wu Tong has already retired and no longer fights monsters. Canon Chingu and Eagle Blade Kong Quan often leave the headquarters city to hunt monsters. These two people are the leaders of the fighters in the Mingyue sector. Feng, we all know about your situation. Don't worry, we'll help you out. Laughed Canon Chingu. Fuck, no matter how arrogant the Thunder Dojo's people are, they wouldn't dare to bully us. Yeah, Eagle Blade Kong Quan slightly nodded. After a while. In the guest room, the people from the Limit Hall and the Thunder Dojo sat on two sides. There were around 20 people on the Limit Hall side, while the Thunder Dojo side only had 8 people. Wu Tong, this is indeed the fault of Huzi's nephew, laughed a bearded brute. However, that nephew of his is just a kid. How old is he? What does he know? And he's just a normal person, not a fighter, so there's no need to hold it against him. Oldly, don't talk about useless things, laughed a bearded brute. However, that nephew of his is just a kid. Oldly, don't talk about useless things. Oldly, don't talk about those useless things, laughed Wu Tong as he shook his head. This situation can't be any clearer. You guys came here to settle this privately, right? Zhang Ze Hu in the fighter circle is known as Mountain Tiger. The weapon he uses is a gigantic mountain-splitting blade that he holds in both hands. He's known for his bravery and ruthlessness. Chief Wu. Zhang Ze Hu slightly smiled and his gaze landed on Luo Feng. Little Luo should talk about this personally. Little Luo, how do you think we should settle this to your satisfaction? Shut up. Eagle Blade Kong Quan glared on the side and scolded. Luo Feng is a good brother of our Limit Hall. Little Luo? Only you have the right to call him that. Zhang Ze Hu froze. Eagle Blade Kong Quan is a ruthless person in the fighter circle. Even Zhang Ze Hu doesn't dare to mess with him. Zhang Ze Hu, Mr. Zhang. Luo Feng stood up and slightly smiled. I'm a bit embarrassed to have so many of my brothers come out for this. Actually, if I were to follow my own thoughts. If that Zhang Haobai wants to break my legs, that's a small matter. But if he dares to hit my dad, then he's looking for death. Luo Feng glared as he roared. Zhang Ze Hu was startled. The fighters from the Limit Hall all laughed. This Mountain Tiger Zhang Ze Hu is an experienced fighter. He's now an advanced warrior fighter, only one step away from the warlord level. Luo Feng actually dared to glare at him. This caused the fighters from the Limit Hall to feel that this kid Luo Feng is quite brave. Luo Feng, what do you plan on doing? Speak. Zhang Ze Hu was a bit annoyed and his face was ugly. Luo Feng laughed. Zhang Ze Hu's anger? He really didn't care about it. Ignoring the future, Luo Feng's current fitness level is above the intermediate warrior level and is close to the advanced warrior level. As for his spiritual force, according to the difference of 2 ranks between his fitness level and spiritual force, he's at least at the beginner level warlord level. Just one sentence, 50 million Chinese dollars. I Luo Feng will give you face and let this go, smiled Luo Feng. You're really asking for too much, 50 million? Zhang Ze Hu glared. This price is too high, frowned head instructor Li of the Thunder Dojo. Luo Feng slightly smiled and didn't say anything. The price isn't high, smiled head instructor Wu Tong of the Limit Hall. Luo Feng, I'll also give you a price, 5 million. I'll give you 5 million and let this go. Also give me face. Otherwise you're not giving me face. Zhang Ze Hu glared at Luo Feng. 5 million? The people from the Limit Hall also frowned. Just, Canon Chingu and Eagle Blade Kong Quan showed up today. Even if you give them face, you shouldn't give such a low price. If the price is too low, you're not giving them face. Otherwise, I'm not giving you face? Luo Feng also glared. Zhang Ze Hu, I'll also say this. 50 million, not a single cent less. If you go 1 cent less, then prepare to meet your nephew in the security bureau. Zhang Ze Hu was so angry that he started laughing. He didn't think that a newbie like Luo Feng wouldn't give him any face. 50 million and not a single cent less? Zhang Ze Hu's eyes flashed fiercely as if he wanted to eat someone alive. Luo Feng didn't care at all. He's seen quite a few posts in the Home of Limits, so he knows that when negotiating, it's taboo to lower one's head. Whoever lowers their head means that they're weaker than the other. And since Luo Feng was the one in the right, logically speaking, if 2 people are of the same status, the one who made the mistake should apologize. But Zhang Ze Hu was very arrogant, clearly bullying Luo Feng for being a newbie. Sadly, Luo Feng didn't buy it. Alright, listen to me, said the head of the Dojo of Limits, Wu Tong. Luo Feng and Mountain Tiger, both of you take a step back. 30 million Chinese dollars. Zhang Ze Hu, 30 million Chinese dollars isn't much to you. Take it out and we'll forget about this. Luo Feng, you don't have any objections, right? Luo Feng nodded. We'll do as Uncle Wu says. Mountain Tiger, what about you? Wu Tong looked towards Zhang Ze Hu. In the entire meeting room, everyone's gazes landed on Zhang Ze Hu. Zhang Ze Hu angrily stood up and laughed. You want me to lower my head to this little bastard? Dream on. Oldly brothers, let's go. If you don't agree, then you'll have to pay 100 million to protect your nephew, laughed Wu Tong. I'd rather give the country 100 million than 30 million. Zhang Ze Hu sneered as he looked at Luo Feng and sneered, Kid, being a fighter isn't that easy. Wait until you leave the headquarters city and you'll know how scary monsters are. All sorts of dangerous situations can happen suddenly. Monster towns and the military can't compare. The monsters in the military are all raised in captivity, so they're the weakest. I hope you don't die so early, or else how will you play with me in the future? Oh yeah, let me remind you, I'm not too far away from the warlord level. How long will you have to wait to reach the warlord level? And can you live that long? Luo Feng slightly smiled. Thank you for your concern, Mr. Zhang Ze Hu. However, you should think about how to prepare 100 million for the country to protect your nephew. Zhang Ze Hu's face darkened. Let's go. 100 million, 100 million. Canon Chingu purposely shouted. Zhang Ze Hu's group didn't say much and directly left. Seeing that group of people leave, the people from the dojo of limits in the meeting room started to make a ruckus. This Zhang Ze Hu's temper is really as bad as the rumors say. It was clearly his nephew's fault, but he refused to bow his head. Wu Tong smiled and shook his head. He would rather pay 100 million than settle it with 30 million. The dojo had contribution points and so did the country. Those who had rendered meritorious service to the country would be given a certain amount of contribution points based on the size of their contribution. If they had 10,000 contribution points, they would be given a 1-star rating. 100,000 points was equivalent to 2 stars. This was the same data as the dojo. Back then, Dong Nanbiao, who had single-handedly slain a strange tiger-headed dragon at the banks of the Yangtze River and sacrificed himself to save hundreds of thousands of civilians, was posthumously awarded the title of a 4-star hero. By donating to the dojo, one could also donate to the country for contribution points. 1 contribution point for 10,000 Chinese dollars. 100 million Chinese dollars was equivalent to 10,000 contribution points, which was equivalent to 1 star. If Zhang Ze Hu refused to negotiate with Luo Feng, then the only way was to donate 100 million to the country for his nephew and raise his nephew's contribution points to 1 star. As a 1-star citizen, Zhang Haobai had special privileges. He wouldn't be sentenced for so many years just because of his conflict with Luo Feng. Even if he donated 100 million to the country to raise his nephew to 1-star citizen. But a 1-star citizen dares to fight against fighters. Even if he doesn't get sentenced, he'll still be locked up for 3 to 5 months and suffer. Artillery Chingu shook his head. Who can you blame if he refuses to bow his head? He's rich so he doesn't care. The fighters of the dojo of limits laughed. Luo Feng. Chief Instructor Wu Tong laughed. According to Chief Zhu Ji's orders, I'll arrange for you to enter the warlord level fighter squad. This way you'll have an easier time training outside of the city. Your safety will also be guaranteed. I've also helped you negotiate with the Firehammer squad to let you join them. Firehammer squad? Luo Feng slightly nodded. That Chief Zhugu indeed values him. From the beginning he let him join the warlord level fighter squad. The squads that leave the city and enter the wilderness to hunt monsters have different levels of strength. Generally, if there was one warlord level martial artist in a small team, it would be considered a warlord level martial artist team. Artillery Chingu patted Luo Feng's shoulder and laughed. I'm the vice captain of the Firehammer squad. If you follow me in the future I'll take care of you. However, Luo Feng, I have to say this first. Our Firehammer squad will give you a chance to train and let you get used to killing monsters. However, you have to work hard and not rely on the help of the other squad members. If you still can't get used to it after your first mission, we can only kick you out of the squad. Brother Chin, I understand. Luo Feng laughed as he nodded. Fighter squads are all on the edge of life and death. If there's a burden in the squad, then the impact will be huge. I'm relieved that you understand. Also, Artillery Chingu laughed. Have you bought your weapons and equipment yet? Not yet. I'm preparing to buy some better weapons and equipment. However, only those with 1-star contribution points can be bought at half price. Luo Feng shook his head helplessly. Artillery Chingu immediately laughed. That's easy. Tell me what weapons and equipment you want to buy and I'll buy them for you. You don't have enough contribution points, but I do. I'm not far from a 2-star contribution point. I can definitely buy them at half price. Later you can just transfer the money to my account, right? Okay. Chief Instructor Wu Tong nodded on the side. It's fine to get someone else to buy normal cold weapons and hot weapons. Of course, you can't get someone else to buy the instruction manuals. Luo Feng nodded. He knows this. For example, if he buys the 9-stage Thunder Blade, then in the Dojo of Limits, Underground Alliance and Thunder Dojo's database, it will show. Luo Feng bought the first 3 stages of the 9-stage Thunder Blade. Then Luo Feng can use the 9-stage Thunder Blade without a problem. However, if Yang Wu can use the 9-stage Thunder Blade without buying the instruction manual, he'll be arrested once he's discovered. This is because he's suspected of plagiarizing and spreading the 9-stage Thunder Blade instruction manual, which violates Thunder God's ownership of the instruction manual. If you don't buy it, you don't have the right to learn it. If you let someone else buy it for you, then the database will only have the information that someone else bought it for you. Even if you buy it, you won't dare to learn it. And weapons and equipment don't have copyright. Luo Feng, write down all the weapons and equipment you want to buy. I'll buy them for you later, said Chingu. Luo Feng nodded and immediately went to find a pen and paper to write it down. All 5 series equipment. The battle uniform set is priced at 9 million, the Ghost Blade No. 2 series is priced at 3 million, the Shield series is priced at 1.5 million, and the 10 throwing knives of the 6 series are priced at 1.5 million. The total is 15 million. Adding in the backpack, tactical communications watch and other small tools, LuoFeng's equipment is complete. LuoFeng's home's 2nd floor, training hall. The morning sun shone in through the window, causing the entire training hall to be bright. Luo Feng wore a loose training uniform and sat cross-legged in the training hall. The training hall that was over 100 square meters was empty. Only Luo Feng sat cross-legged in the middle, and in front of him was an instruction manual. 9-stage Thunder Blade. I heard the 9-stage Thunder Blade is hard to learn. I wonder how hard it is. Luo Feng opened the instruction manual and started reading. He opened the first page of the 9-stage Thunder Blade instruction manual. Fast. The most eye-catching word on the title page made Luo Feng feel like he was looking at a blade coming towards him. His entire body trembled. Keep in mind that this is just a copy of the 9-stage Thunder Blade instruction manual. Even the word fast in this copy made Luo Feng's heart tremble. One can only imagine how terrifying the thunder god who created this technique was. Luo Feng continued to read. Of all the techniques in the world, speed is the only thing that can't be broken. When your blade is fast to the limit, then you'll be invincible. Luo Feng opened the first page and saw the flamboyant handwriting. Even Hang's destroyer is the same. His strongest move is also a move that's fast to the limit. With one move, the heavens and earth tremble and nothing can't be destroyed. The essence of the 9-stage Thunder Blade I created is one word: fast. Luo Feng flipped to the second page and continued reading. Why is it so fast? Why is it so powerful? First of all, when your blade is so fast that your opponent can't even react to it, you can slit your opponent's throat before they even have the time to swing their blade. Even if you only have 10% of your opponent's strength, I'm sure their throat won't be able to block your blade. So, speed allows you to attack your opponent's weak points. Next, speed allows your blade to be shockingly powerful. According to the energy calculation method, the attack power of a blade is equal to 0.5 mv/2. In other words, when a blade's mass is fixed, the faster the blade is, the more terrifying the energy it contains. When it's fast enough, even a water column can pierce through steel. Even a piece of paper can cut through steel. Speed allows your opponent to not have time to defend. Speed allows your blade to be unstoppable. Whether it's from the angle of attacking the weak points or from the angle of absolute power, making your blade fast is the best way. Luo Feng nodded. Most fighters in today's society understand this. Only when you reach the limit of speed can you be invincible. There are many martial artists in the world who know this, but those who can put it into practice and succeed are few and far between. Thunder God's description in the instruction manual was full of confidence. The 9-stage Thunder Blade that I created gave me the fastest blade in the world. It also gave me the world's fastest speed and the strongest physique. Luo Feng's eyes lit up as he listened. The 9-stage Thunder Blade contains a complete set of movement technique, flowing light, a complete set of Dao Yin technique, 9-stage chaotic origin, and a complete set of blade technique, Thunder Blade. Among the three, the Dao Yin technique is the most fundamental. Only by relying on the Dao Yin technique can you have a strong physique. Physical fitness is the foundation. Saber arts and body arts, on the other hand, are techniques that require repeated practice and comprehension. Luo Feng continued to read. There were a total of 3 parts of the Dao Yin technique recorded in this instruction manual. According to the secret manual, the 9-stage chaotic origin Dao Yin technique had a total of 9 volumes. For the same reason, this secret manual only had the first 3 levels of the saber technique. His movement technique was only at the first 3 levels. Luo Feng read everything word by word. He raised his head. At this time the sun was already very hot. The August sun shone through the window, making the entire training hall even more dazzling. Unbelievable, this is unbelievable. Luo Feng was completely subdued by the 9-stage Thunder Blade created by Thunder God. Even though it only had the first 3 stages, the first 3 stages were enough to stun Luo Feng. Compared to this instruction manual, the so-called techniques on the internet are like fireflies compared to the sun. Let's test this technique. Luo Feng solemnly placed the instruction manual in the corner of the training hall. He then took out his ghost blade and unsheathed it with a chi sound. The ghost blade was 101 centimeters long, 78 centimeters long, and 5.2 centimeters wide. This blade has already been sharpened, and its main material is grade 2 Kuluo alloy. This ghost blade, even at half price, still costs 3 million and weighs 112 kilograms. Begin. Oh. Luo Feng stood in the middle of the training hall and swung the ghost blade in his hand over and over again. The reason why the 9-stage Thunder Blade is so powerful is because it relies on a special method of force exertion. When a normal person swings his blade, he might use 100% of his strength. And when a practitioner of the 9-stage Thunder Blade swings his blade, he will only use 70% of his strength. After using the first layer of force, they will try their best to use the second layer of force, which is the same 70% of their strength. 2 layers of force, which is 140% of their strength. The 9-stage Thunder Blade is split into 9 stages. The first stage allows you to use 1 more layer of force, which is 140% of your strength. The second stage allows you to use 2 more layers of force, which is 210% of your strength. The third stage allows you to use 3 more layers of force, which is 28% of your strength. The 9th stage allows you to use 9 more layers of force, which is 70% of your strength, which is a whole 7 times your original strength. What does that mean? In other words, if a beginner-level warrior reaches the 9th stage of the 9-stage Thunder Blade, then he can match up to a beginner-level warlord. So difficult, the rumors were right. This 9-stage Thunder Blade is extremely difficult to learn. Even the beginner level is this hard. Luo Feng continuously swung his blade hundreds of times, trying to see if he can use 1 more layer of force on top of the previous blade. But he couldn't do it. Too difficult. Keep in mind that swinging the blade is over in an instant. In such an instant, it was simply impossible for the body to exert strength from the inside after the first slash. I still can't bite off more than I can chew. The first stage of the 9-stage Thunder Blade has 18 blade techniques. According to the instruction manual, practicing these 18 blade techniques will help you understand the first stage of the 9-stage Thunder Blade. Luo Feng nodded. As the saying goes, reading a book 100 times will reveal its true meaning. After practicing these 18 blade techniques many times, as long as you have a bit of comprehension, you will naturally understand the essence of the technique. Feng, time to eat. Feng, hurry up. His parents' voices carried from downstairs. I'm coming. Luo Feng put his ghost blade back into its scabbard and hung it on the wall. He then put the 9-stage Thunder Blade instruction manual back in his room and went downstairs to eat. Time passed. Even though Luo Feng joined the Firehammer Squad, the Firehammer Squad was on vacation. Luo Feng took this opportunity to study the 9-stage Thunder Blade, his technique and his Daoyin technique. Out of these, the Daoyin technique and genetic energy training had the most obvious effect. Luo Feng's body strength increased by a large amount. As for the 9-stage Thunder Blade, Luo Feng didn't even complete the first stage. Even though he didn't complete it, Luo Feng's technique has become more agile and his control over his blade technique has improved by quite a bit. Even though I can't instantly unleash a wave of force, at least my control over my muscles is much more precise than before. Luo Feng was alone in the training hall as he silently put on his battle uniform pants. On the outside of his pants were 5 throwing knives and on his feet were alloy battle boots. On his body was a battle vest, his arms were bare and he wore wrist guards on both of his hands. On his back was a fighter's bag, a hexagonal shield and a ghost blade. On the wrist guard of his right hand was a tactical communications watch. In his bag he prepared water and some high-calorie food. Today, August 28th, is the first time I leave the headquarters city and officially start a mission. Luo Feng took in a deep breath. Indeed. Today is the day the Firehammer Squad leaves. Luo Feng. Canon Chingu yelled from outside. Luo Feng responded and immediately ran downstairs. As he got downstairs he saw his father Luo Honghua and mother Gong Xenlan, standing on one side in the living room. His brother Luo Hua sat in his wheelchair and also silently looked at Luo Feng. They knew that today is the day Luo Feng leaves the headquarters city and enters the wilderness. The wilderness is a general term for the areas on the continent outside of human headquarters cities. It includes ruined cities, suburbs, mountains, forests, lakes, etc. Feng, be careful, Gong Xenlan couldn't help but to say. Don't worry Mom. Luo Feng grinned, nodded towards his dad, and then looked towards his brother Luo Hua. Brother, maybe when you come back you'll be able to eat my wedding candy. Luo Hua suddenly laughed. Wedding candy? That's fast, you haven't even known that girl for 2 months, right? Laughed Luo Feng. Our relationship is good, so what if it's fast? Luo Hua laughed proudly. Alright, when I come back I'll eat your wedding candy. Make sure to get some delicious wedding candy for me, laughed Luo Feng and rubbed his brother's head. Alright Mom, Dad, I'm leaving. I'll be back in a few days. After saying that, Luo Feng directly ran out the door and met up with Chen Gu, who was at the entrance of the villa. Luo Feng and his family watched Luo Feng, who was dressed in battle uniform, and another similarly burly man, who was also fully equipped, swiftly leave. Let's go, Luo Feng. The 3 of us will go to the HR Alliance market and meet up with the captain. After that, we'll head out together and head towards the wilderness. Yes, brother Chin. Luo Feng, Chingu and another man with a spear on his back got on the Limit Hall's car and swiftly departed. Jiangnan headquarters city, one of the 6 headquarters cities in China, was extremely rich. In the main city area, there was a skyscraper that was 88 stories tall. On the wall of this skyscraper, there were 2 eye-catching English letters, HR. Around the first floor of the skyscraper, there was a beautiful plaza as well as the largest fountain in Jiangnan headquarters city. Around the plaza, there were over 1,000 soldiers patrolling, preventing outsiders from taking a single step inside. The passers-by that passed by all looked at this skyscraper with curiosity and envy. In the entire Jiangnan city, most people have never entered it in their entire lives. Beep. An electronic sound rang. Immediately, the patrolling soldiers gave way, and a military off-road vehicle with HR printed on it drove in and stopped at the entrance of the skyscraper's lobby. While the door opened and 3 fully armed martial artists could be seen. They were either carrying a spear, a saber and a shield, or 2 large metal boxes on their backs. Sir, please enter. The doorman at the entrance of the skyscraper's lobby respectfully bowed. These 3 fighters directly entered the skyscraper. Come Luo Feng, let's go sit at the bar on the side and wait for the captain and the others, laughed Chingu. I haven't seen the captain yet, so I wonder what he looks like, laughed Luo Feng. At the same time he carefully observed this HR Alliance market. This is the underground alliance formed by the super families and financial groups of the world. As their headquarters in Jiangnan headquarters city, the entire skyscraper was extremely luxurious. The lobby's floor was so shiny that one could see one's reflection. Even some of the simple decorations were extraordinary. The waiters in the lobby, the men were handsome and the women were alluring. Every single one of them had a refreshing smile on their faces. Luo Feng, Chingu and another team member, Zhang Ze Hu, all sat on the sofa. Gentlemen, what would you like to drink? The waitress slightly bowed and smiled as she asked. Tai Guanyin. Tea with a bit of jasmine flavor. Canon Chingu and Zhang Ze Hu, these 2 experienced fighters directly spoke. Luo Feng was a bit shocked when he heard this. In the dojo of limits these 2 often drank. Zhang Ze Hu, who had a pair of muscular arms like that of a gibbon, laughed. Luo Feng, you can't be careless in the wilderness so you can't drink. Luo Feng realized, right, you can't be careless in the wilderness, how can you drink right now? Give me a cup of pu'er too. Luo Feng smiled. The quiet sound of music reverberated in the hall. It was a song played by a flute. As for what song it was, with his taste he could not recognize it at all. However, the sound of the flute was sometimes melodious and soothing, and sometimes it was fast and light, making one's soul feel much more refreshed. Luo Feng, the first floor is where the guests rest. Going up from the second floor is where we sell items in the mall. Qin Gu smiled. This is the Underground Alliance Mall. Usually it was cheaper than the full price of the items in the Home of Limits online store. Of course it's higher than our half price. Luo Feng nodded. Half price, that's for the members of the Dojo of Limits. The biggest advantage of the Underground Alliance Mall is that we can sell some of the monster body parts that we kill to them at a high price. Qin Gu explained, if we sell the monster body parts to the dojo, then we will sell it to them. The price is relatively low, but the dojo will give us contribution points. If he sold it to the Underground Alliance market, the price would be high but he wouldn't get any contribution points. Naturally, it's up to you to choose. Luo Feng smiled. He already knew about this after reading a few posts on the fighter discussion boards. Selling it to the dojo gives you contribution points and money. Selling it to the Underground Alliance only gives you money but the price is high. Brother Wang, you've been up for half the night, go rest. Leave this to me. A clear and gentle voice rang. Luo Feng, who was holding a cup of tea, suddenly turned his head as if he was shocked by electricity. What he saw was a young girl wearing a white shirt and a black suit changing shifts with another manager. In this bar there were a total of 12 waiters and 1 manager. It's open 24 hours a day and changes shifts every 8 hours with 3 shifts. Su Xan? Luo Feng looked in disbelief at the female manager behind the bar. She looked like a professional woman, and her actions were naturally noble. To be able to become the manager of the bar in the Underground Alliance Mall, she definitely isn't a position that just anyone can enter. This is a place specially made to serve fighters. Even a regular waiter would have to graduate from a famous university and go through many training courses, not to mention a bar manager. Su Xan, she. That simple high school girl from before, how did she suddenly become so different? Brother Qin, Brother Zhang, I'll go over for a bit. LuoFeng's bag, shield, and blade were all placed on the sofa, and he smiled as he stood up and walked towards the bar. In the bar. Su Xan lowered her head and checked the drinks and other supplies in the bar. Suddenly, Su Xan, a familiar voice rang. Huh? Su Xan was shocked. In the lobby of the first floor, people who knew her real name usually called her Manager Su, and ordinary martial artists didn't know her name. How could someone call her Su Xan? Moreover, this voice was so familiar. Su Xan raised her head. At this time, Luo Feng lowered his head and looked inside the bar. Su Xan, who was half squatting while checking the drinks, raised her head. The two's gazes met. At this time, Luo Feng and Su Xan both had a sudden feeling, and their hearts started to throb. Luo Feng, why are you here? Su Xan reacted and stood up as she smiled. Even you, Su Xan, can be a manager here, so why can't I be here? Luo Feng smiled as he said. As he looked at the young girl in front of him, Luo Feng couldn't help but to think back to when he was in high school. He sat in the back of the classroom and silently stared at Su Xan's back. He had a crush on her for a long time, but he never had the chance to say it. He thought that it would be hard for him to see Su Xan again, but who would have thought that he would see her in the HR Alliance market? And he saw Su Xan before he went to the wilderness for the first time. Ah, Luo Feng, you're a fighter now? Su Xan saw Luo Feng's appearance and couldn't help but to be surprised. Yeah, I'm going to the wilderness soon, laughed Luo Feng. Wilderness. Su Xan's face slightly changed. In the entire world, other than headquarter cities, all areas are called the wilderness. To the humans living in headquarter cities, the wilderness is another name for death. That place is filled with all sorts of monsters. Some are sinister, some are powerful, and some are almost invincible. In those kinds of places, only the strongest fighters can go there and fight against the monsters. Su Xan didn't think that Luo Feng was a fighter and that he was about to enter the wilderness. To be honest, Su Xan knows that Luo Feng likes her a bit. But there's no way to hide this. Luo Feng often sneaks glances at people's backs during class. Su Xan occasionally turns around and sees Luo Feng staring at her. Naturally, Su Xan understands Luo Feng's thoughts. It's just that neither of them pointed it out. Luo Feng, the captain's here, come over, yelled Qin Gu. I'm going, said Luo Feng to Su Xan. Okay, nodded Su Xan. Luo Feng walked back to his original position. At this time, 3 more people came. 2 of them looked very similar, obviously twins. Both of them had a shield and a scimitar on their backs. And the third person had an incomparably sturdy body. On his back were 2 black hammers that had specks of silver. Luo Feng, these 2 are the famous twin moon scimitar, Wei Jia brothers, Wei Tai and Wei Qing, laughed Qin Gu. The Wei Jia brothers nodded towards Luo Feng, took off their shields and scimitars and sat down. Brother Tai, Brother Qing, smiled Luo Feng as he greeted. The other members of the Fire Hammer squad were all quite a bit older than Luo Feng, at least 10 years older. Compared to the other 5, Luo Feng was indeed a little brother. This is the captain of our Fire Hammer squad, Twin Wind Hammer, Gao Feng, said Qin Gu. Luo Feng couldn't help but to carefully look at the captain, Gao Feng. Gao Feng wasn't too tall, only around 1.8 meters. The most special thing about him was that his body was way too sturdy, as if he was made out of steel. Gao Feng grinned and the muscles on his face were like rocks. Luo Feng, you also use blades. When you enter the wilderness, learn from Wei Tai and Wei Qing. You're quite talented, so I'm sure you'll quickly become a member of our squad. Okay, nodded Luo Feng. No matter what, his #1 goal right now is not to become a burden to this elite warlord squad. Rest for a bit, we'll head out soon, said Gao Feng. Yes, Captain. Including Luo Feng, the other 5 nodded. After just 20 minutes, Gao Feng and the others who finished their tea stood up. Let's go to the wilderness. Luo Feng immediately put his ghost blade, shield and other items on his back. Luo Feng, a voice rang. Luo Feng turned his head. Su Xian's chest was slightly moving up and down. She didn't know why, but when she thought about how Luo Feng was about to enter the dangerous wilderness, Su Xian panicked a bit. Maybe Su Xian had a special feeling towards this boy who had a crush on her in high school. Luo Feng looked at Su Xian. I'll be starting school in a few days, but during college I'll be the manager here on Saturdays and Sundays, yelled Su Xian. You have to come when that time comes. After yelling this, Su Xian's face was a bit red. Okay, I'll definitely come. Luo Feng let out a smile. You got her so quickly, impressive, laughed Chenggu, who was on the side as he patted Luo Feng's shoulder. This is the benefit of being young, all the beauties are throwing themselves at you, laughed Gao Feng, who was on the side. Since they decided to let Luo Feng join the Firehammer squad, they naturally treated Luo Feng as a brother. Luo Feng only laughed. Let's go. Get on the car. The 6 members of the Firehammer squad got on the HR Alliance's private car and headed towards the train station. They rode the train out of the headquarters city towards the wilderness. You're quite talented, so I'm sure you'll quickly become a member of our squad. Okay, nodded Luo Feng. No matter what, his #1 goal right now is not to become a burden to this elite warlord squad. Rest for a bit, we'll head out soon, said Gao Feng. Yes, Captain. Including Luo Feng, the other 5 nodded. After just 20 minutes, Gao Feng and the others who finished their tea stood up. Let's go to the wilderness. Luo Feng immediately put his ghost blade, shield and other items on his back. Luo Feng, a voice rang. Luo Feng turned his head. Su Xian's chest was slightly moving up and down. She didn't know why, but when she thought about how Luo Feng was about to enter the dangerous wilderness, Su Xian panicked a bit. Maybe Su Xian had a special feeling towards this boy who had a crush on her in high school. Luo Feng looked at Su Xian. I'll be starting school in a few days, but during college I'll be the manager here on Saturdays and Sundays, yelled Su Xian. You have to come when that time comes. After yelling this, Su Xian's face was a bit red. Okay, I'll definitely come. Luo Feng let out a smile. You got her so quickly, impressive, laughed Chenggu, who was on the side as he patted Luo Feng's shoulder. This is the benefit of being young, all the beauties are throwing themselves at you, laughed Gao Feng, who was on the side. Since they decided to let Luo Feng join the Firehammer squad, they naturally treated Luo Feng as a brother. Luo Feng only laughed. Let's go. Get on the car. The 6 members of the Firehammer squad got on the HR Alliance's private car and headed towards the train station. They rode the train out of the headquarters city towards the wilderness.